Moments after Trump was elected in November, Governor Newsom got together with his legislative colleagues and they called a special session. And the governor doesn't use the word Trump-proof, but this is a term that's been circulating in the media that California is trying to Trump-proof the state with this special session. And one of the things they did is allocated $25 million to this. Money will give the state's Attorney General, Rob Bonta, a little bit of leeway and some freedom to flexibility financially to navigate legal challenges. So things that he potentially deems are unconstitutional, he can challenge the Trump administration on. And we've seen just that. One of the executive orders that Trump passed has already been initiated some legal challenges and some reactions from the government.
And what are these executive orders? Can you get into them? Some of them could have really big impacts in California.
Absolutely. And the one that we're seeing a lawsuit on is one related to birthright citizenship. So the 14th Amendment in the Constitution has traditionally been interpreted that if someone is born in the United States, irregardless of their parents' status, that they would be conferred citizenship. Well, Trump has signed an executive order. He did this on his first day in office, and he's reinterpreting that. He's saying that actually being born in the United States does not necessarily guarantee citizenship, that this is dependent on the status of one's mother and father. And how this plays out remains to be seen. So as soon as the order was signed, we saw Attorney General Rob Bonta, in addition to approximately 24 other states' attorneys general, they joined together. We also saw some cities get in the mix, San Francisco included, and they filed a lawsuit asking for a temporary injunction to stop this birthright citizenship order. And what we've seen just in the last day is that a federal district court in Seattle, the judge has issued a temporary block. So the law wasn't going to take effect until February 19th anyways. It was already written the way Trump wrote it was in 30 days this would take effect. Well, now the judge has put a temporary pause. He said, we need 14 days to look at this and to determine whether legal challenge should stand, or as the judge says, and as Governor Newsom have repeatedly said, they feel that this is unconstitutional. They would like to see this blocked. And Trump's team has, on the other side, said that they also feel they have legal ground. So this is one of these really interesting situations where you have both sides, both have their legal experts, both think they're in the right. So it's really just going to come down to what court decisions can we have? And there's a lot of experts are feeling that this is a matter that's going to go all the way to the Supreme Court.
Now, there's another one that impacts California is the border one, right? There's a border. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So he signed a series of border orders, and none of these are concrete in their terms. When you read through them, there's a little bit of openness and some interpretation. But what he's essentially saying is that the invasion at the southern border, and these are his words in the order, must stop. So he's ordered all law enforcement agencies at the federal level to repel anyone that's trying to come in illegally. It also orders to begin deportations. So as the Trump administration has repeatedly said, they want the worst first. So they're looking for violent criminals, people with a criminal record that includes things that violence or other atrocities to humans, not just low-level petty crimes, or not the crime of just coming into the country illegally. What he said is they're really prioritizing those with murder convictions, assaults, and things of that nature, or people that have come across, been deported, and have now come back into the country. The Trump team says they're prioritizing this. And we haven't seen much in the way of official statements yet, and this is understandable in terms of operational security. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement, law enforcement agencies don't want to forecast or don't want to let people know where their operations are taking place. We've heard unconfirmed reports that in sanctuary cities across the country, we are already seeing action. We've heard reports that this is happening in LA, nothing confirmed independently, and this is something that once these flights, and it's understood, Trump has asked the military and the National Guard to be involved in this. Once we get a little bit further down the road, we should see some actual numbers as to, okay, we saw these many people deported, and then a little bit of demographics. These are some of the criminals, or these are some of the crimes that were behind the people that were deported. But where that starts in California and where it ends, really nobody knows. If you look at the Public Policy Institute of California, they say we have 2 million illegal immigrants already in the state. So how many of those are in jeopardy of being deported? How many could potentially become under investigation? This all remains to be seen.
California is a sanctuary state, right?
We're seeing different things at different levels of government. So we are definitely seeing Huntington Beach in some areas saying absolutely they're in favor of what Trump wants to do in terms of immigration. We're seeing other areas that are fighting back and saying like local governments, saying they will not participate in any of these raids. I asked Governor Newsom about this, and he specifically said that he will not get in the way of federal legal action. And there was some really strong rhetoric coming from Tom Homan, President Trump's border czar, as well as from the president himself, basically warning that anyone that gets in the way of federal law enforcement actions could potentially be aiding and abetting a crime. And it appears that Newsom here is definitely steering clear of that. He is adamant that he would never interfere with federal action. But at the same time, he's open to a more compassionate approach, as he likes to call it, with some of these immigrants that are in the state. He does not want to see mass deportations. He has repeatedly reiterated that what he would like to see is a common sense approach. And it's really interesting, the idea of common sense here, when we hear this coming from the president and coming from the governor, it's like we all have the same ideas, different opinions on how to get to the same idea. And that really creates this sort of interesting situation where both federal, state, and local leaders need to come together, prioritize what's going to happen, and then figure out what the steps are from here. Because where we are now, we have some local leaders afraid, we have some local leaders that are excited about what potentially could come, and we have a lot of people in the middle that are they tell us they're uncertain. They really don't know where we're going from here.
Cartels were designated as terrorist organizations. Do you know what's the impact of that?
This could have really profound implications. So here in California, definitely we have a cartel presence. We've had several experts have come on the show and explain this. I've talked to Sheriff Matt Kendall in Mendocino County in the last week, and he's told me about some of this. So we have cartel activity in California on different levels. We have some human trafficking situations going on. We have illegal underground cannabis grows that are basically operated and run by multi-million-dollar criminal networks. And then we also have a fentanyl crisis, is what the government likes to describe it as here, where we're seeing thousands of Californians, all ages, backgrounds, and socioeconomic backgrounds, falling victim to this deadly opioid. And President Trump is really focused on stopping the flow of fentanyl into this country. So one of the reasons that he's designated these cartels as terrorist organizations, as he says that some of them almost operate in Mexico as quasi-government entities, where the government ends and where some of these cartels begin, is really gray area. And he's putting the pressure on this that the fentanyl needs to stop, the illegal human trafficking needs to stop, and these are all essentially profit-making activities for the cartels when they transport people into the country from Latin America or throughout Mexico. They make thousands of dollars per individual. If you look at the fentanyl, the profit margins on fentanyl, these DEA agents have told us that they can make this stuff for pennies or less than penny a dose, bring it over here and make millions of dollars in profits, all while Americans and Californians are suffering. And this is really what Trump wants to stop. So by designating the cartels as a foreign terrorist organization, by also threatening 25% tariffs on Mexico and on Canada if the fentanyl flow doesn't stop, as well as an additional 10% on China if the fentanyl precursors don't stop flowing from Chinese manufacturers to other nations, this is an attempt, in Trump's mind, not only a negotiating tool with the tariffs to force other governments to see things the same way he does, but with the cartels to really give some legal tools to our law enforcement experts. And Sheriff Matt Kendall in Mendocino County, he said he does believe that this designation could help, that these drug trafficking networks that we're seeing in California, he said it's been hot and cold in past years trying to get the federal government to cooperate and work with local law enforcement to really tackle a problem that is larger than a local sheriff's department can really handle. These are well-armed, very well-organized criminal organizations, and their leadership structure is decentralized. So if what the sheriff tells me is if they come and raid this farm or raid this one site, they might not get anyone who really has anything to do with the organization. These are all just people trying to make a living, someone that's either been in a human trafficking situation or has been talked into performing some sort of daily activities to get this money. And it's an outsized problem that we really need the federal government's assistance in. And by by designating a foreign terrorist organization, you open up the resources, you also strengthen the penalties and allow for more foreign negotiation to try to stop these actions before they get to California. One other aspect of designating cartels as foreign terrorist organizations is that it could give law enforcement the opportunity to go into cities that otherwise wouldn't allow them. So sanctuary cities that are not cooperating with federal law enforcement. As a terrorist organization, the feds can essentially just go right in there, conduct their operation, and deport or arrest whoever they need to arrest. The other thing, and this was brought up to Trump, was that this could allow the U.S. military to actually confront cartels in Mexico. And this, where I'm mentioning cartels in Mexico, it could be of any nation, but the ones that we specifically know of and are following in terms of fentanyl production and human trafficking, there's several cartels in Mexico that Trump is targeting. And this could allow operations inside of Mexico. When Trump was asked, he said stranger things have happened. So he likes to talk in generalities, and he likes to use his words as leverage in negotiation. So it still remains to be seen, is the military really plotting on taking down cartels in Mexico? This is a huge step from any other administration. We've never seen anyone actually try to take on the cartels head on with an order or a series of policies like this. And this could be a series of actions in the United States, across California, or this could be international geopolitical action to stop the flow of fentanyl and stop these dangerous cartels.